One stock we've been following a while is Dufu Technologies. It has doubled, in a very short span of time, less than 2 months, or slightly over 2 months rather.
Just 1 month.
September.
September, yeah.
Right, so about 2 months, right? That is rare because they have been struggling. The industry has been struggling. But I think if you look at the US, a company related to them is Micron, right? They've also done well
yes,
in the memory space,
yeah.
where they are linked to, not exactly 100%, but they are linked to what Dufu is doing with, HDDs and all that.
Yeah, so it went up 100%, and we will be looking whether is there any more upside from this price point onwards. So if you look at their latest quarterlies, it seems quite decent. I mean, if you look at their preceding quarters, like quarter 2, quarter 1 of 2025, they have actually been struggling, and then recently only they managed to rebound back, and the margins are going back to its previous phase, which is in 2024 around 14%. But if you look at in totality, right, for the entire financial year end, and if you assuming you analyze it, they're going to be making roughly around 30 million to 40 million ish, which is still lower than its pre-pandemic level. So that kind of tells you that Dufu was kind of struggling. So in the latest quarters, they got mentioned a very bullish remark. So they say that the demand for the HDDs, particularly these high capacity 20 to 30 terabyte models, are getting more and more. The demand is just getting very strong because of AI driven application. And the management say that they are quite positive that, in the next coming quarters, it's going to be, quite good.
Isn't it interesting that it's quite a lag in terms of the spending? Because you would imagine this should be a 2024 story, but somehow only now they are reporting and saying that we are getting demand. So maybe there's something to learn there.
Correct. Yeah, that's pretty weird. I mean, there was a lagging factor that's happening. Okay, so then there's also another evidence where, that kind of justify why Dufu is being so bullish. So we shared this in our FIRL community over here. Essentially, Western Digital is entering their super cycle in the storage. So in the latest quarterlies, they say that the demand is so good that it surpassed the analyst expectation, and so it went up quite a lot. And if you look over here, Western Digital top 7 customers have provided purchase orders through at least the first half of the next year. And one of the largest hyperscaler actually signed an agreement throughout calendar year 2027. So that tells you the demand for Western Digital, which is Dufu's customer, right? They have a very pent-up order. So that's why there's a trickling effect that Dufu also managed to capitalize on that. And as a result, Western Digital and Seagate both rocket I think for the past 4 months. It went up 3x already. But Dufu is still lagging behind. Right now, they are up 100%. So there's actually a few early signs. The first early sign was in 12th of September 2025, where Western Digital shared this email. Basically, they say that there is a lot of demand for their portfolio. Unprecedented demand for their portfolio. And they continue to invest to advance the innovation and then to support this growth. They also are getting more and more demand, so that's why they have to increase prices on all of their HDD products effectively during that time period. And what's interesting was that one of the groups that I've joined, they mentioned that when they tried to search up for Western Digital's products, those 2 terabytes, it's all sold out already. So so it's quite a crazy demand right now. The second early sign was Micron actually. Micron and Samsung Electronics, as well as SK Hynix, who is related to the the DRAM, the DRAM, the RAM, the memory space. Their share price actually went up quite a fair bit in, I would say, around August to September. There was a price bump to about 40 to 50%.
Yeah.
So that kind of signifies there is a demand for memory. And which
there's a flow down, right? If Samsung, Micron gets a lot of orders and demand, Western Digital, Seagate will get the demand into Dufu.
Yeah, so that's why that explains why the lagging indicator. But so this Micron should be your leading indicator going forward. And what's interesting is that there is some shareholders that recently became the major shareholder. So one of them is actually Mr. Oi Keng Tay. So he bought Dufu around August over here, and essentially his stake right now is doubled already, right? So why is he interesting? Well, this is the man who actually invested in Frontcan very, very early on, since 2015. And he made multiple folds already. I think it's 16 to 17x of his money already. And
he also went to Globetronics, right, back in the day. But I think that one's not yet play out yet.
Yes, exactly. And not only he bought it in 2015, but he has been actively acquiring shares throughout the years. So technically speaking, right, he should be making a lot of money from front end. So this is why we find it interesting that he's inside Dufu. But not all of his bets are great because you see, this is another of his holdings, right? Is Bio Alpha Holdings. So initially he was a major shareholder, but then he ceased to be a major shareholder and he lost about 55.
Yeah, but I think
56%.
across a portfolio, he has done fantastic, right? I
Yeah,
think that's
thanks to the
how
front end,
investing.
yeah.
That's how investing works. You
Yes.
don't get big wins all the time.
Yep, exactly. But his bets are pretty interesting. So on one hand, you have like Frontcan, on the other hand, you have Biof. And then on the other hand, you also have Globaltronics over here. So his Globaltronics bet also didn't really pan out well. It's down like 76%, and he's still holding the shares. He haven't really sold it yet. So hopefully there's some sort of turnaround, or maybe we can anticipate that. And last but not least is Nova MSC. So this is also another company. He bought it, but this one is down a little bit. It's 35% as compared to like the other two bad calls. And he's still a major shareholder for Nova MSC. So the final thoughts about Dufu today is that whether we have missed it or did we actually really miss it? So we got some insights from one of our research team. And this insights is very rare because he actually talked to Western Digital's CEO, or at least the IR over there. And he got some insights whereby the number of spacer rings that is needed inside the HDD is going to be lesser and lesser. Probably because the innovation that Western Digital and Seagate is doing. So that's why...
Although cannot keep up.
Correct. So although it does like boost Dufu's demand to some perspective, right? However, it's not going to be as explosive as 2018, 2022. So we already highlighted and we shared this into our group over here, which is also the reason why we didn't really initiate a position in Dufu, even though there was an exciting demand, right? Because maybe we don't foresee that the numbers is going to be like similar to 2022's level, which is at a very high pace. So this is the reason number one that we kind of like just let it go. And number two, we were in Dufu previously, actually, around like until December 2024. So we held this stock since April 2024 and we sold it. And the reason why we sold it is because, the earnings didn't really keep up with the valuation. The management back then also, they did guided like a very poor earnings outlook for 2024, which is also the reason why we disposed. And technically speaking,
it's still below the sell price, right?
Yes. So we sold it at the right time, actually. So had we held it on, right, we would actually incur like maybe 30 to 40% loss.
That's right.
So we were right early on.
Yeah, so basically they are part of a secular trend when I first bought it in 2018. And so there was pretty nice gains there. But like you said, this is the trend is still there, right? Because storage is still growing like crazy. It's just... So one thing about Dufu is that they were a lot superior compared to JCY and Notion, which is pretty much the other two in this place. I think that's one more, which is
M-Clean.
Yeah. So they are the quote-unquote number one in Malaysia. But the reason they were number one was because they so happen, I don't know whether it's by luck or design, like we will never know. But they were so happen manufacturing one specific area of the HDD, which corresponds to the increase of storage. Because if you, let's say like JCY just manufacture the exterior, right?
Anybody can do that.
Well, that's one. But it doesn't fall in line with growing demand for storage. Because it doesn't matter how you improve the HDD, the case is still going to be the same. And at most, you can say there'll be more of these cases. That's it, right? And there's some demand there. But the way HDD grows and storage grows is that there will be like disks inside the HDD that they will increase. Maybe they make it thinner or whatever, and then they have some technology where they can squeeze all the disks together even more. And so what Dufu was doing was more related to the disks. Now, what is dangerous and where at least my circle of competence will lack, which is that I don't know what if there's a new tech that does not need this as much anymore, or maybe they're moving towards some sort of hybrid. I wouldn't know, right? So that's the danger with Dufu technologies. But nevertheless, this technology still remains, and that's why they can benefit. But the question is how long? But in fact, we did do a study in our SIB program, right? 2028 is pretty much the stopping point. And it's quite crazy because we filmed that video in 2020, I think, and today is already 5 years on. So it's 3 years left probably, right?
Yeah. So the last question we'll be asking is whether this is an opportunity to chase the particular stock, right? Well, first of all, we cannot give any buy or sell recommendation. But if you take into our risk, into account, right, which is Western Digital and Seagate might need lesser spacer ring from Dufu, then that could like impact their future profitability because that is their key business model. So it's whether you're kind of like in the ticking time bomb. When will this like trend start to like fade? So that is number one. Number two is that Dufu's valuation, I think, is like right now 35 times to 40 times price to earnings ratio. And even though if you like forward, like assume that they make back around like I would say 50, 60 million, it's still going to be about 20 to 30 times. It's still quite expensive, at least in our opinion. So yeah, I think that is about it. We personally don't own any positions in Dufu. I'm just putting out there. So that is today's video. And before you guys go, this is FIRL's October 2025.
Down.
Yeah, slightly down because the market overall is kind of like down also. The global portfolio, however, is still like maintaining around 20.13%. The boring portfolio, it's 11.23%. So if you see on your right hand side over here, what is this stocks over here, right? It's basically companies that we have initiated inside these portfolios. So for KGB, it's inside the FIRL Malaysia. Futu is the global portfolio, and Valesto is in the boring portfolio. And also, just for transparency's sake, we no longer own Valesto, but then Valesto is still inside the boring portfolio. So there will be reasons. The reason why we sell Valesto is obviously we want to buy something else which is more exciting. But it is still inside the boring portfolio simply because of their dividends. Yeah. So if you guys want like dividends, right, you can check out inside the boring portfolio, and Valesto is still part of it, because their yield is just still quite attractive. Yeah. But if you want to know what is FIRL all about, is where we share our analysis on companies that we find interesting. So every single month we will publish at minimum 2 reports. I think there was a month where we published 4 reports. That is if we are so like gung-ho during that month. But anyhow, if you want to know how we do our analysis, you want to know how we analyze their business model, prospects, management, numbers, valuation, all of those kind of things, it is inside there. And on top of that, we also do share with you guys the management notes. So just now we talk about Dufu's, right? How did we get the insights where Western Digital and Seagate needs lesser space? It's because of this network that we have. Yeah. So one of our research team managed to meet Western Digital's or Seagate's CEO/IR. That's how they get the information, and this is not publicly available. So if you want to get those insights, it's inside FIRL as well. And if you want to get a taste, you want to see how we do our write-ups, you want to see how we do our management notes, and also one of the video inside SIB, it is inside this FIRL free sample. The links also will be in the description and comments. And just for you guys, for example, we show you guys KGB. We did a write-up about that, and it's inside the free sample as well. So that's about it for today's video. See you guys next week.